This is the Louie T Network. Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Me, your me, Louie T. Welcome. You are in the lab room. Of course, I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the 2015 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where I aim to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League 2015 NFL Draft by looking at each and every single individual pick made by said team, getting an aggregate score, and we tally up those scores by using our baseball grading scale. Single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, so I cannot tell how these players are going to pan out, and I don't want to discount any of these players before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so, we get that aggregate score that I talked about earlier, divide by the number of picks made by that team in their draft, apply bonuses when necessary, and we come out with our final grade for their draft. Move on to the next team in the process picked by you. That's right, you, the viewers at home, are in total control. All you have to do is simply be the first to leave a post in the comment section stating the team you would like to see next, so the phrase next, and the team you would like to see next. So it's really simple. The team and the phrase next need to be somewhere in the comment. I don't care how you phrase it, as long as those two components are evident in the post. You got yourself a winner if you are first. And we're getting towards the finish line for the first time in a long time. I can see that light at the end of the tunnel. It's not a train, it's actually the end of this series. And so we're starting to wind down. We're under double figures in teams left. So what I want you guys to do out there is to start making sure you're getting teams up that haven't been done. So what I'm basically saying to you out there is, hey, pay attention. Don't be afraid to just drop. And most of you, you're not bashful. You're dropping next in the team you'd like to see next, even if you're 35 minutes late. I encourage you to continue to do that, because now we're getting to the point where you've got people coming in, they're first, they're leaving a comment, but it's already a team that's been done already. So if you can come up with a rebound and go back up strong, you can get your team up here next on the program. We don't have many teams left, so make sure if you're one of those fans whose team has already been done and you're just having fun trying to get another team up there, make sure you're not throwing up a team that's already been done in the series. But because of you out there, the next team up in the 2015 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series is who? Wait for it. Wait for it. Go, Pack, go! Go, Pack, go! That's right, the Green Bay Packers are up next on the docket, and this is a team that usually wins in the draft. You want to know why they win on Sundays? You want to know why, even without a healthy Aaron Rodgers, this team still manages to win the NFC North Division? Because they win in the draft consistently. One of those teams, much like the Baltimore Ravens, much like the San Francisco 49ers, teams who annually win in the draft, that know the personnel, they know their identity. I think more so like Baltimore, I think this Green Bay Packers team, more so than any other team in the league, can identify what a Packer looks like. They have a strategy, they go into the draft with that strategy, and they come out feeling like they got all the players that they were looking to get. And so they're one of those teams that they're able to address needs but still get what they look at as the best value at that pick. They do it all the time. And we always wonder, why is it that Greg Jennings can leave in free agency? Because they have three other guys that they drafted over the last 3 seasons that they feel like, hey, can step in and get it done. Why does James Jones get to skedaddle to Oakland and free? Because they have more guys. They've been waiting for this, okay? They've been building for this. They've had guys seasoning over the last couple of years that they've drafted. I look at this team and I say, Jared Abadaris didn't play last year. Jeff Janis is still looming. You look around the league, Charles Johnson was once a Green Bay Packer, and I told everybody that this guy was going to be good. He's now in Minnesota getting a chance to be the guy out there. This is a Packers team that prepares for the future, but is also good in the present. And it's because of drafts like the one I'm about to talk about, which keeps this team a relevant football team and always in discussion for hoisting the Lombardi Trophy and bringing it back home where it belongs. So let's talk about this Green Bay Packers 2015 NFL Draft, shall we? It's what they do, and they do it among the best in the league. You start in the first round, 30th overall selection, defensive back out of Arizona State, Damarious Randall is the selection. Now, I'm not going to break this guy down. Of course, if you've been following the series, I've already broken down Damarious Randall and many others in my Draft Prospects 101 series. If you're looking for a thorough, in-depth breakdown of a lot of guys that I felt like were going to be high selections in this year's draft, check out the Draft Prospects 101 series. With that being said, here's a guy that everybody likes to, who doesn't like to be right, man? I tell you this all the time. If being wrong is right, I don't want to be wrong, okay? I don't want to be right. I always like to be right, okay? Who doesn't like to be right? And so, when I told everybody on my Draft Prospects 101 series that not only did I think Damarious Randall was going to be a first-round pick late in the first round, and no one was talking about this guy being a first-round pick when I made that statement, but not only did I say that, but I said, don't be surprised if he's not only the first safety to come off but the only safety to come off the board in the first round. Now, I said that. Now, of course, we all know Packers aren't going to use him strictly as a safety. I expect this guy to move around. They drafted him to be a corner, and so he's going to play some of that position. But don't be surprised if you see certain packages that they move this guy around and he's at safety. So that versatility is what drew him to the Packers and made him an ideal candidate to be on their squad. And so Ted Thompson saw an opportunity to get a versatile football player, and that's why they took him at the end of the first round. And I want to acknowledge Packers fans for acknowledging me, okay? Nothing is better than having someone say, man, you hit it out of the park. You hit a home run. You said that this was going to happen, and it came to fruition. And Packers fans were serenading me and showering me with all of the accolades for being right. And every now and again, you just want to be right, and you want people to acknowledge the fact that you were right. And so I want to take this opportunity to say, hey, Packers fans, I appreciate that. Because yes, I was right. Yes, I was out in front of that train. And before everybody else got on board, I was the first passenger. And the Packers fans let me know that they knew that I was the first passenger on that train. And so I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, you lose Tramon Williams. You lose one of your backup corners as well, a young backup corner. If I'm not mistaken, it might have been Devon House. I'm not sure. One of those backup dudes is no longer there. So 2 corners from a secondary that already was a little suspect before, even more so now. You needed to replenish that position. The secondary in general needed to be replenished. And so here in the first round, Damarious Randall, big time player out of Arizona State, going to come in, give you some versatility, give you some speed, some ball skills, all of the things that make up the Packers secondary in recent years he's bringing to the table. And so in the first round, 30th overall selection, defensive back out of Arizona State, Damarious Randall. Is it hard? It's hit deep. Out of here. All right. For the Green Bay Packers. At some point, you knew I was going to do that with this Packers team. They hit home runs. They hit for consistent average. That's the thing about the Packers in the draft. They can hit for straight power, or they can hit for doubles, man, for average on you. The Packers are very versatile in the NFL draft because they have an identity and they stick to it. You go to the second round, 62nd pick overall, defensive back out of Miami by way of Ohio, Quinton Rollins is the selection. And this was a guy Mike Mayock had talked about throughout the process, you know, especially in the later stages of the process, as a guy that he was really intrigued by. And he talked about him at the combine and, you know, kind of really piqued my interest. Had a couple of Packers fans say, hey man, this guy is legit. So, you know, I was really anxious to put the tape on Quinton Rollins and really see what all the fuss was about. And I've had guys not necessarily blow me away with their tape, even though everyone else was blown away, a la the linebacker that the Panthers took in the first round, Shaq Thompson. Not really a Shaq Thompson guy, and maybe he's in a perfect spot in Carolina, but to have everyone telling me, you gotta see Quinton Rollins, you gotta see Quinton Rollins, I'm just like, I've been there, done that. He's probably not going to live up to all the hype that everyone's pretty much built him up to be. And so when I put the tape on, man, was I surprised. Much to my surprise, this guy was exactly what everybody else said, and then some. Let's jump into his pros. 5'11", 195. I talked about the way the NFL is going, especially at the cornerback position. You need size at that position. 5'11", that's more than enough size, especially when you have a longer guy. He's sort of a longer corner. So 5'11", you're basically talking 6-foot corner here. And to me, anything under 5'10", and you're really pushing it in this day and age. With all these big receivers outside, these 6'2", 6'3", 6'4 guys, hell, we got 6'5 receivers now, 6'6 guys even. You really got to be careful. You can't have guys too short on the outside, but this guy here, I'm going to tell you right now, perfect size, and there's so much to like about Quinton Rollins. Let's just keep going. Exceptional athlete, and I talk about this all the time. Let me lump these next two, matter of fact, next three pros together. Exceptional athlete, quickness and agility, playmaking ability. Now, I talk about Darrelle Revis all the time because I think he's the best corner in the league. And I was ready to write Darrelle Revis off maybe about 2 years ago when he went to Tampa Bay, got injured, wasn't the same guy. I thought the Darrelle Revis dominance, the whole island and all of that stuff, Revis Island, I thought that was done. I thought he had peaked as a football player and he was about to start coming back down to earth. And last year with the Patriots, he showed me that there's another gear. I still can play at a very high level. And I know a lot of people love Richard Sherman. The reason why I love Revis is because he's so diverse. No, he's not the best athlete, never has been the best athlete, yet he's still the best corner in the league. You can say the same thing for Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman has a dominant trait though. He's a bigger corner, a longer corner. There's a reason he can run, he's got awareness, he can do some things. Revis doesn't. He's an average size corner, average athleticism, but his one thing that he does well that I think a lot of people sleep on Darrelle is his agility. His agility is second to none in this league, and to me, that's what makes Darrelle, because he can run the short routes for the receiver. You know, he studies his film. You can tell he knows what's going on. He can run routes for guys, and it's his agility that allows him to stop and cut on a dime, break on the football, and run routes and pick passes off. You make a mistake around Darrelle Revis, you pay for that mistake. I reference him all the time because I feel like Darrelle Revis is what you want to be. If you're not Patrick Peterson, everybody's not Patrick Peterson. To me, if you draw up a corner, you want to draw him up like Patrick Peterson. You want him to be 6 foot, 6'1", running a sub 4.40, big, chiseled, physical, strong guy, over 200 pounds. And you're running like, wind. You want him to look like Patrick Peterson, but in order to be elite, you have to have a mechanism that switches on, and Darrelle Revis has that. I think this guy may have it too. His agility and quickness, to me, is what made him stand out to me right off the bat. I saw this guy and I'm like, whoa. I mean, this guy is moving very fluidly and quickly from point A to point B. There's no wasted motion. When he goes to break on something, it's broken on him. It's broke, okay? When he's going to tackle somebody, he's running through ball carriers. And so he is able to make plays, and he had 1 year, we'll talk about this a little bit later on, 1 year of collegiate production because he only played 1 year of college football, and yet he made plays all over the field. And because of his quickness and agility, he's allowed to be a playmaker, and he does not waste opportunities to make plays for his football team. You go to his next pro, physical tackling cornerback. This is something that I don't think most corners can lay claim to. You don't see a lot of cornerbacks being physical tacklers, okay? You see a lot of guys who make business decisions. You see a lot of guys pick their spots when they want to go up and be a physical tackler. You don't see guys being physical at all times. This guy is physical on every snap. And that is something that I think you rarely see from the college game coming into the pro game. Now, this is a kid that, mind you, 1 year of college football, okay? I'm not saying he's never played football in his life because he was an All-American football player in high school. The guy can play football. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that this guy didn't play collegiate football. There's a big step up in level of competition from high school to college, and he steps in final year of college and plays football and doesn't miss a beat, and he's physical. Normally that's the last thing you get with a cornerback is physicality as a tackler. Most of the time guys can make plays on the football, they can show you elite athleticism, but they don't want to tackle, okay? Especially when you tell me a guy's coming from basketball or less of a contact sport to football. A lot of times you would expect, if he came in and he wasn't a tackler, it wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't have batted an eye, and I wouldn't have even gave it a second thought, and I would have kept it moving. I wouldn't have even docked him for that. I would have mentioned it. I would say, hey, guy's not a great tackler, and I would have kept it moving. Only 1 year of football, you would really expect that. But to watch this guy on tape and to see what he was able to do, and to see him chopping guys down, and when I say chop, physically, violently cutting guys down. I mean, when I'm talking about buzzsaw, you know, I mean, chopping guys down physically. He's coming up, wrap form tackles, getting them on the ground. He's plastering guys. This guy is a physical football player. Let's get physical football player, man. He's looking to put somebody down on the ground, and he can come up with form, or he can come up with a forearm shiver. Whatever way you want it, you can get it. This guy's a physical tackler. And again, you're not expecting that from a guy that only played 1 year of college football. You're just not. To me, this is the biggest thing for me. Natural ability. This is the next pro. He's got natural ability. You know how some guys they just show up and they're just better than everybody else? That's what Quinton Rollins has going on for himself right now. He's one of those guys that he doesn't have to practice as much. He just shows up. And, you know, you got guys out here, try hard guys. They're giving it everything they got. They're out there. They're like Rudy. You know, they got to come to practice. They got to practice at 110% every single day just to make a dent. And then you got guys like Quinton Rollins who shows up. He didn't come to practice. He's got his cleats on his shoulder. He puts his cleats on and he steps on the field and he's the best guy out there. He's just got natural ability. You got guys who were playing at Miami of Ohio for 4 years that couldn't crack the roster, that have been out there giving it their all, and this guy shows up in his last year of college football and he was easily the best player on the team. I mean, he's just got natural ability. How many guys do you know cannot play a sport for 4 years, step onto the field, and they're the best guy out there? I can't name any. I mean, literally, it's so hard because I can attest to this. When I was growing up, I was the best at baseball. I was one of the best. I wasn't the best, but I was one of the best at basketball as well. And I took about 3 years off from both sports, okay? And anybody who knows, when you get to those teenage years, that's when you need to be going your hardest. If you have any aspirations of being a professional athlete, in your teen years is when you're supposed to take it to that next level. It's fun when you're a kid. It becomes a job when you get to a teenage level, and then you can kind of see the fruits of your labor pay off when you get to college and all of those things. Well, I took years off when I was supposed to be going my hardest. And all those other guys that I was better than when I was a kid, they caught up to me and they passed me. Long gone. I couldn't even see those guys anymore because I took time off. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't a natural ability guy like Quinton Rollins, where I could just step back on the baseball diamond and I was the best guy out there. Or I could step back on the basketball court and I was the best guy out there, or one of the best guys out there. He's one of those guys, he didn't play college football for 3 years. He was playing basketball. He's a basketball guy. He wasn't a football dude. He was a basketball guy. He realized not many spaces in the NBA for a 5'11" point guard. They're just not. So what do I need to do? I want to play football now. I'm going to give football a run. I got 1 year left to play. Why not? Why not give it a run? Plays football, comes and steps on the field, best guy out there. Natural ability. Everybody doesn't have it. He does. 1 year of heavy production is the final pro, or second to last pro. Let's just lump these last two. And upside. Those are the last two pros. I mean, I don't have to tell you this guy has upside when he's only played 1 year of college football. Let's jump into some of these numbers though. 7 INTs. I talked about playmaking ability. There it is, in the flesh, right there. 7 INTs. You make a mistake, you pay for that mistake around Quinton Rollins. 9 passes deflected. Again, we're talking about 1 season here. So you're talking about this man getting his hands on 16 footballs. 9 of them pass deflections, the other 7 interceptions. You're not sneaking anything by this guy. 72 tackles. I'm talking about a cornerback. Don't forget that, folks. We're talking about in his first year of college football, nonetheless. 72 tackles. 4 of those are for losses. So he's coming up being aggressive. And then you got 1 forced fumble in there as well. So, I mean, the guy is a playmaker. He's around the football. He's making things happen. There's a lot to like here. I'm telling you right now, the upside is tremendous. Somewhere off the screen, you can't even see it. Somewhere up here, you can't see it, but trust me, it's up there somewhere. You look at his cons. Doesn't possess elite speed. He's a 4.57 guy. I don't care about that. I could care less. And obviously, he could care less as well. He ran that 4.57 at the combine. Could have easily tried to improve it at his pro day. He said, no, I'm good. I'll rest on my combine times. I'll just come out here and show you guys some more of that agility that I'm flashing. I don't need to improve my time because my record speaks for itself. You saw what I did on the field in that 1 year. You know what I'm about. I don't need to run the 40 again. I'm a 4.57 guy. Okay, cool. That's what I'll be. I'm faster than that on game day though, but I'm a 4.57 guy. Fine. That's what I am. Cool. Run with it. So he doesn't possess elite speed, but neither does Darrell Revis. Neither does Richard Sherman. Okay. You don't have to be the fastest guy to be an elite corner in this league. You just need to have elite traits. This guy does. So I don't really worry about that. But it's definitely an issue that's worth noting, and we'll talk about why here in a second. Panics when he's beat deep. Doesn't locate the football. So Quinton Rollins is one of these guys, and the first thing that stood out to me after the elite agility and quickness was that he was coming up, man. He was right here, man. It was good. It's like, man, you that young cat that just stepped out here. What you doing in my face? You can't check me at the line. You can't come up here and get physical and want to press man me. What's wrong with you, boy? I'm going to school you out here. He was laying hands on dudes, man. I mean, putting his hands on guys, being extremely physical. Guys didn't even know what hit him. He's at the line, press coverage, press and bail. He's off. He's playing so many different techniques. You would have thought the dude was a 4-year senior, seasoned veteran, first year out there. So, the only thing is though, sometimes he gets aggressive. He wants to come in your face, all right? Guy is right there, tries to put that jam on him initially. They beat him off the line of scrimmage. He doesn't have that makeup speed all the time. Sometimes he'll get back in the pictures, sometimes he won't. 4.57 kicks in. Other guys running a 4.48. He's not able to close that gap. All of a sudden now, quarterback lets the football go. He doesn't have time to locate the football because he's already beaten by a step and a half. In his mind, it's time to panic. I don't know where the football is. I know it's coming, and I know I'm beat. If I look for the football, all that's going to do is slow me down. So he's not looking for the football now. He knows he's beat. What do you do when you're beat and you got a guy in front of you by a step and a half? You start grabbing. You start reaching. That's what Quinton Rollins does. It's natural. It happens all the time. And the thing that I'd say to myself, if I'm a Packers fan, he's only going to get better. He's only going to get better with his technique. That's a flaw right now. Not being able to locate the football when you're beat. Because that could be an underthrown football. Okay, that could be coming right to you instead of a dude that's a yard and a half in front of you. It could be coming right to you. If you locate the football, you might be able to make a play. Maybe it's slightly underthrown where you could reach out and make a play on it. This guy has some hands like he's a receiver. So if you just locate the football instead of panicking, maybe you can still make a play. But he doesn't, and that's something you can clean up. But you don't possess that elite speed. You want to get up in guys' grill. Got to make sure you get that jam off properly or you can get beat off the line of scrimmage, and that did happen to him at times. He's raw. That's the last con. I don't have to tell you that. 1 year of college football. I really didn't want to say he was raw because of how impressive this guy looked out there on the football field, but he's raw. Of course he's raw. That what I just talked about shows you that there's still a learning curve for him to endure going to the next level. You don't play football for a while. There's some things you're going to have to clean up, and that's one of them. But this guy, I could also throw in there that 1 year of production, but You got a 1 year sample size. What else you want me to do? It's not like he played 3 years and he only had 1 year of heavy production. He played 1 year, and that 1 year there was heavy production. So I'm sold, man. I am sold, hook, line, and sinker. Sign me up for more Quinton Rollins in the second round. 62nd overall selection. Defensive back out of Miami by way of Ohio. Quinton Rollins for me is hit hard. It's hit deep. You can put him on the board. Yeah. It's a home run. Back-to-back jacks for the Green Bay Packers. They lose 2 cornerbacks. They replace them in the first 2 rounds. That's what good football teams do. And so, I'm telling you right now, I'm impressed with what they've done in those first 2 rounds. Let's see what they continue to do as we move on. 3rd round pick, 94th overall selection, wide receiver out of Stanford, Montgomery is the pick. This to me is a typical Packers pick. Unnecessary, but why not? We're the Green Bay Packers. They don't need any receivers, if you ask me. I mean, I look around, Jordy Nelson's there. You just re-signed Randall Cobb. You got the young kid, Devontae Adams from last year. He's going to mature and get better. I told everyone last year you made a mistake by allowing the Packers to scoop him up. We saw against the Cowboys what kind of football player this kid's going to be. And so you got those guys. Those are your core 3 receivers right there. Then, I already talked about Jared Abbrederis. Really don't know what's going on with him. Of course, had the ACL tear. He could be coming along nicely right now. Still like Jared Abbrederis. Not gonna make me feel bad about him. Then, of course, you still got Jeff Janis, who you drafted last year as well. Now you add Montgomery to the mix. Just an abundance of riches. Gotta love it. 6 foot, 222 pound wide receiver. And his first pro for me, built for tough. How many receivers you see walking around at 6 foot but 220 pounds? I mean, really? What are we talking about? I know 6'4" receivers. I know 6'3" receivers that aren't even 220 pounds. I know some 6'3" cats that's 215. This guy's walking around at 220 and he's 6 feet tall. So that tells you what kind of physical football player you're getting, man. This guy is built for the long haul. And most NFL GMs will tell you, we want the bigger, stronger, more physical football player, especially the Packers. Looking at the Redskins and their new GM, Scott McCloughan, he comes from the Green Bay Packers tree. You look out at Reggie McKenzie, Oakland Raiders GM, coming from the Green Bay Packers tree. They'll tell you first and foremost, I'm looking for bigger, stronger, more physical athletes. They're the ones that tend to last longer in the NFL. But we're talking about a 6 foot, 220 pound wide receiver. Again, how many guys walking around at that kind of weight at 6 feet? Like I said, I know 6'3" receivers who are pushing 215. So this guy is built for tough, and you see it in his play. He's a good route runner at Stanford. Man, is it me or did they have some wide splits at Stanford? Does Stanford play on a substantially bigger field than everybody else? It seems like when I watch their tape and I see their quarterback, Hogan, loading up to throw the football, I'm like, man, that hash looks really wide. It looks like they're almost split out to the sideline or something. Maybe it's just me. But anyway, he runs really good routes. I mean, there are a lot of double moves he ran at Stanford to uncover. He's the type of guy that, because of those double moves, you're always susceptible to going up top and having him beat you deep because you're looking for that double move. And when he doesn't give it to you, he just runs right by you. He's already on top of you and they're letting the football go and he's going up and tracking it. So he's a guy that runs some extremely good routes and he can uncover you and get open. He's a playmaker. And at Stanford, to me, that was his role, especially in 2014. 2013, he burst onto the scene, really announced himself as a big-time wide receiver in college football. And because of that, teams started keying in on him in 2014. And so Stanford had to adapt and try to find ways to get him the football. And so he turned into a playmaker. They had him at running back and they gave him, and look, when I tell you he's 6 foot 220, it sounds like a running back. I mean, that's running back size. And you gotta have a little bit more weight to take on the rigors of the running back position. So they gave him the football as a running back at times. Threw him the football as a receiver. They had him back on punts and kickoffs. He was a playmaker. They tried to get the football in his hands as much as possible because they knew he was a big play waiting to happen. Special teams value. To me, that's what you get out of this guy right away, day one. Is he going to have a huge impact on this Packers offense? Maybe. I can't say that for certain. I just named 3 receivers that are going to get the bulk of the work at wide receiver. Not to mention the Rodgers kid at tight end. He's going to start to emerge here shortly. You've got targets in Green Bay already. He doesn't have to come in and be a key contributor at receiver like Davante Adams did. They needed him to step in and be a big-time receiver for them last year. They're not asking the same thing out of Ty Montgomery this year, but where he will have his presence felt right away, to me, is on special teams. Because you can take Randall Cobb away from that, not put him out in harm's way, and put a guy in Ty Montgomery who will give you the same. Now, he's not as fast as Randall Cobb, but he will give you the same type of explosion and change of direction as Randall Cobb and still give you impact plays on special teams. So, in my estimation, special teams value is what you're going to get out of him day one, and that is big for Ty Montgomery. Versatility. I mean, I've already spoken to the versatility you get with this receiver. He's a guy that can play out wide, can play out in the slot. But I wasn't even talking about that when I say versatility. I'm talking more about him being in the backfield as a running back. Like what the Packers do with Randall Cobb. They have Randall Cobb in the backfield. They find ways, create ways to get Randall Cobb the football. He's a playmaker. Same thing here with Ty Montgomery. They had him in the backfield as a running back. He was their best wide receiver. He was also on punts. He was also on kickoffs. 2 touchdowns on punt returns in 2014. He's a versatile football player. That's what the Packers probably were most intrigued by. That's why he's on this roster now. You go to his cons. Lacks top end speed. And at Stanford, I thought that there were times where he flashed the speed. There were other times where I'm like, maybe he's not as fast as everybody thinks. Mike Mayock would consistently say, this is a 4.4 40 guy. I'm not too sure about that. There are times where he looks like he's running about 4.47, and there's times where he looks like he's running about a 4.54. So his speed varies with me. About 4.51 sounds about right, which is what he ran in his pro day. Ran a 4.55 at the combine, turns around and betters that by 0.4 of a second, runs a 4.51 at his pro day. Yeah, he's right around somewhere in there. I mean, I don't think he's a 4.4 athlete, but at the end of the day, his long distance speed to me isn't going to hurt him. He's a quick guy. He'll be fine. He'll flourish at the NFL level because he's a playmaker. And that's what he does. Concentration drops. This is something that I don't want to beat him up too much for this, but when you're a playmaker, when you're the guy on your football team, you need to make plays. There's a necessity there. They need you to step up, okay? The other team wants to take you away. You need to be able to make plays to create opportunities for others. And when the quarterback throws you the ball, it's not going to be perfect all the time. Yeah, you're running to the right, ball's behind you to your left. I need you to turn around, stretch, and make a play. You're a playmaker, right? Make a play. Drop the football. Ball's low, okay? Not going to be perfect all the time. And Hogan doesn't make it easy on him all the time. There's some errant throws. Make a play. You're a playmaker. Make a play. Ball's at your shoe tops. Scoop it off the ground. Pick it up. Go. Run fast and slow. Don't drop the football because it's low. Don't make an excuse for yourself. There are concentration drops here with Ty Montgomery where I'm just saying to myself, you have to catch the football. Wherever it's thrown, if it's in your catch radius, I need you to come up with the football. And yes, against Notre Dame where he had about 2 or 3 drops, it was wet. It was a nasty day out there. Catch the football. Enough said. His 2014 production was a little underwhelming, okay? So his last con is his dip in production in 2014. Now, here's a guy that I just talked about, 2013, huge season. Got on the radar. Going into the 2014 season, he was on the Biletnikoff watch list and all of that stuff because of what he did in 2013. 2013, 61 catches, 958 yards, 10 touchdowns just as a receiver. And then he probably had another 13 rushing attempts for about 158 yards and another 2 touchdowns there. And then he had another touchdown as a kickoff returner, maybe even 2. So the production was there. The versatility was ever present. This guy looked like he was a budding star at the University of Stanford. You go to 2014, same amount of catches, 61, 604 yards. You're talking about 300 yards less. Only 3 touchdowns. Remember, he had 10 the year prior. His rushing attempts go up to 20, but the yards come down. He had 158 the year prior. I think he had like 143 in 2014. So many more attempts, less yardage. Just everything just seemed to really come back down to earth. And so who are you? No, seriously, who are you? Are you the 2013 guy that was on the verge of busting out? Or are you the 2014 guy that struggled to kind of find his niche and his footing in Stanford when the teams turned it up and ratcheted up the pressure on you and said, you're the guy? All right, well, we're going to check you like you the guy. And those are the numbers that you produce. I'm anxious to see who Ty Montgomery really is, because are you the 2013 guy or are you 2014 guy? I think his game will mature. He doesn't have to be the guy anymore. That's the most important part for Ty Montgomery. He doesn't have to be the guy in Green Bay. There's plenty of guys ready and willing and able to fill that role. He's just part of the supporting cast. And I think that's what he needs to be in order for him to flourish. At the end of the day, in the third round, 94th overall selection, wide receiver out of Stanford, Ty Montgomery for me is a double. I like this guy. Is he a necessity? No, he's not a necessity in Green Bay, but he's going to bring special teams value to the table right away, and I think that's what they're looking for. Give Randall Cobb a break and allow him to just focus on being an elite playmaker from the wide receiver position as well as in the backfield. So there are a number of ways to give Randall Cobb a football, and taking him off of special teams, make sure that he's not a liability out there to get injured or anything like that. Aaron Rodgers needs him. This team is so much better offensively when they have a healthy Randall Cobb. Ty Montgomery is going to make sure that he doesn't get injured on special teams. You go to the fourth round, 129th overall selection, inside linebacker out of Michigan. Jake Ryan is the selection. You look at his pros, 6'2", 240-pound linebacker. That's great size for the position. I sit here and I talk about all these 5'11 guys and like Denzel Perryman, and we talk about all these undersized inside. I've talked about at least 5 to 7 undersized inside linebackers this year, but that's the new trend in the league. Smaller, faster, shiftier linebackers to cover these guys out in space, the running backs, the tight ends, you name it. They want to have smaller guys, more athletic guys, because teams are now putting 4 receivers on the field. Hell, teams are coming out in 4 wide receiver sets to start the game. You want to have smaller linebackers that can play in nickel, but also still play in your base package. But this is one of those guys that is an exception to the rule. He's a 6'2", 240-pound linebacker, yet, next pro, he's athletic at 4'6", 540, so he can run around, he can move, and I really like his movement skills. I like the way he tracks the football. I think that he's a guy that's very methodical in his approach, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Speaking of which, let's jump into it now. Don't have to wait till later on. He's a read and react linebacker, so he's the type of guy not going to take any false steps, per se. He's going to wait, make sure that he diagnoses the play correctly, and then he's going to make a methodical, calculated move towards the football. Sometimes it's to his detriment. Other times, it's exactly what the Michigan Wolverines needed from him on that particular play. He's versatile. Here's a guy that in 2013 played outside linebacker, which is why I started his breakdown saying he was an outside linebacker, but then kicked inside to inside linebacker in 2014, much like Clay Matthews. And so, to me, and I'm pretty sure the Packers are thinking the same way, hey, I like Clay Matthews as an inside linebacker. That was cute. That was nice. That showed his versatility. I want him on the edge. I want him setting the edge in the run game. I want him being a terror going after the quarterback. And no, he didn't have a drop-off in production. He still got his sacks from the inside linebacker position. I like my Clay Matthews on the outside, okay? Thank you very much. You got Sam Barrington already there on the inside. Why not put this kid, Jake Ryan, right next to him, move Clay back outside where he belongs, find him a tag team partner on that other edge. Really don't care who you stick out there. If Nick Perry can finally stay healthy, that'd be nice, but whatever. I like Clay Matthews on the outside is the gist of that story. So why not get a guy that I feel comfortable with putting on the inside to be our new A.J. Hawk and move back Clay Matthews where he needs to be so he can flourish as one of the best and premier pass rushers at the outside linebacker in the league. That's just my take on it. I don't know if the Packers are feeling the same way, but I think that's what this selection is for. And he was versatile enough to play outside linebacker in 2013, but I think he found a home, and it was his best season, and I'll talk about it a little bit later on, in 2014 as an inside linebacker, and I think that's why the Packers drafted this kid to come in and play that exact position for them. Tackling machine. Tackling machine. 100+ tackles in 2014. Best season, and let's go ahead and lump those two pros in. Tackling machine, best season was 2014, and what that means is best season It was 2014. And you want to see maturation from guys. You want to see them get better. You want to see the light bulb come on at the very end. Because through your collegiate career, you're building towards something. You're building towards being a better football player. And so you want to see that culminate in that last season, whether it's your junior season, your redshirt junior season, your senior season, redshirt senior season, whatever the case may be, you're building towards something. I want your numbers in 2013 to be better than your numbers in 2012. I want your numbers in 2014 to be better than your numbers in 2013. For Jake Ryan, that was the case. 2014, by far, not even close, his best season. He's starting to get it. They moved him to a position that was probably more conducive for his success, and he showed them that they made the right decision by putting him at inside linebacker. His last pro, he plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage, and that's what you want to hear from an inside linebacker. If guys keep him clean, you want him to be in the backfield making plays. 14 tackles for loss last season. And look, I'm gonna tell you this right now. Michigan was not a good team. Offensively, defensively, they weren't a good football team. He was their best player. Offensive, defensive, he was their best player. A lot of people want to say Devin Funchess was their best player. Devin Funchess didn't play in every game, okay? Devin Funchess didn't blow me away. This kid here was their best and most consistent player all season long. Jake Ryan was their best player. So that gives you an idea of what the Packers are getting here in Jake Ryan. 45.5 career tackles for loss in 4 seasons. And one of those seasons was abbreviated because of something we'll talk about a little bit later on. So you're talking about a guy that plays on the other. You're talking about essentially 15 tackles for loss per season. That's the average that you're looking at with Jake Ryan, essentially. This guy gets to the other side of the line of scrimmage and gets guys on the ground. So look, you're getting a football player that's extremely active, tackle machine over 130 or 100 tackles on the season. You're getting a football player that you can feel confident that you may be able to plug and play him day one. Not saying that's something that you can do, but it's a realistic possibility. If he comes in, takes to the defense, and is able to mature very rapidly, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy's not starting next to Sam Barrington day one and allowing Clay Matthews to kick back to the outside linebacker position. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Now you go to his cons, and let's just get this big elephant out of the way first, because he's making a bunch of noise in my ear, and I'm really tired of it. So let's just get this out the way right now. Torn ACL in 2013 spring practice. Boom. That one hits you like a grenade. And the thing that I noticed, first thing I saw was the big knee brace on his leg. I said, okay, that tells me one of two things. Either you've had a catastrophic injury before, or you're preventing one from happening because something scared you to the point where you felt like you needed a knee brace. Most players don't like to be restricted, don't like to play with a knee brace. They usually are forced to do that because of an injury like a torn ACL. And so in my mind, I put 2 and 2 together. Yes, it equaled 4. He had a torn ACL in 2013. So that's something you always got to be mindful of. When a guy tears an ACL, he's more susceptible to tearing it again. Let's hope that that's behind him and you don't have to worry about that. But it's there, it's prevalent, and that's something that should concern you. He's had a torn ACL before, but you should be very encouraged at the fact that he tore it in 2013, did play in that same season, and then turned around and had his best collegiate season of his career in 2014. So you should feel good about that, but also be wary and mindful of the fact that he did tear his ACL. He occasionally misses tackles. This isn't something I want to beat him up for, because it's not like this guy's a habitual offender. But every now and again, he'll go to wrap somebody up and he doesn't get them on the ground. To me, the play that sticks out in my mind is the game-clinching run against Ohio State. 4th and 1, he meets Ezekiel Elliott in the hole, has a chance to get him on the ground. I think Ezekiel Elliott still drags him for a first down, regardless of whether he makes a tackle or not. But you give yourself a chance to play 4 more downs. Don't allow this guy to break your tackle and then scamper for about 39 yards in a game-sealing touchdown. It's a 7-point game at the time. You make that tackle. Who knows what happens? Cardale Jones was in the game at the time. Who knows if he doesn't throw an interception? Who knows if he doesn't fumble trying to run the football and you scoop it up and score and turn this whole game around? I mean, you never know what could have happened. Instead, he misses the tackle in the hole, and he was the only guy that could have gotten Ezekiel Elliott on the ground on that play. He breaks his tackle, scampers off into the end zone, blows the doors wide open in that game, and Ohio State goes on to eventually win the national championship. So He can miss tackles occasionally. I don't want to beat him up because that's not, when you have over 100 tackles, you're not missing many. But there were some times, at least 3 occasions where I can remember him missing some tackles and I'm like, you got to make that tackle, man. If you are the guy, and I just said he's the best player on that Michigan Wolverines football team, I need you to make that tackle. Big time players make big time plays in the biggest spots in games. That was the biggest spot of that game. He missed the tackle. He hesitates sometimes. And he who hesitates is lost. We know that. That's a fact, okay? Wise man once told me that. Long time ago. He who hesitates is lost. This is a guy that, I told you he's a read and react linebacker, and I told you I was going to come back to that a little bit later on. He's a guy that can be a little hesitant. Like, he sees it, I'm like, go, man, go. But again, I don't like to judge linebackers because I made the same mistake with C.J. Mosley last year because he hesitated quite a bit, and he didn't react fast enough for my liking. You don't know, and Mike Mayock told me, he said, look, man, you don't know how these linebackers are being coached. Linebackers are the hardest position to evaluate on tape. You don't know what the coaches are telling these guys in their ears. Hey, I want you to wait. I want you to make sure that it's not a pass. I'd much rather give up a 7-yard run than a 70-yard touchdown behind you. So you don't know what these guys are being told. So I don't want to beat him up, but every now and again he hesitates. And 4.65 is good. It's not great, okay? He's not Stephon Anthony back there. He can't go sideline to sideline and beat an angle and get a guy on the ground. He's not one of these other guys where you're like, man, he wasn't at the party early, but he was right on time. He's not one of those guys. If he doesn't go fast and slow right away, a lot of times he's not going to outrun a running back or a tight end or whomever. But this is a guy that offers you some versatility. He can drop into coverage. I really like the skill set that Jake Ryan brings to the table. And also, you must know this, if you don't remember anything else I just said, never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. Jake Ryan's a scary dude. He's got 2 first names. I don't trust him. And in the 4th round, 129th overall selection, linebacker out of Michigan, Jake Ryan for me is another double. The 2013 ACL tear, the hesitation, those are some issues for me. If he cleans those things up, there's a lot to like here. He's got 2 first names. He's a scary dude. It wouldn't surprise me if he steps in day 1 and is a ball player for these Packers. He's got 2 first names. You know what those 2 first name dudes do. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. You go to the 5th round, 147th overall selection, quarterback out of UCLA. Brett Hundley is the selection. This was big for the Packers because I don't know about you, but 2 years ago, I remember, and it was like foreshadowing. It's like the Packers knew something bad is about to happen to A-Rod. We need some insurance, okay? That summer, if you remember, the quarterback, your backup quarterback, was traded off to Seattle and signed a big deal with them, got him some bread, and remember, he had played well and got an opportunity at the end of the season to show some things, broke a Packers record, you know, for most yards passing in a game or something like that. Crazy record against the Lions, you know, meaningless Week 17 game. And so he showcased his skills a little bit. Seattle bit hook, line, and sinker. And so Matt Flynn became a Seattle Seahawk. But we know how that story ended. You know, Russell Wilson, drafted, 3rd round selection, comes in, wins the job. And Matt Flynn turned into a journeyman quarterback overnight. But the Packers, they knew something was up. They said, all right, no more Matt Flynn. So what do? They go out and get Vince Young. They go out and get Seneca Wallace, Scott Tolzien, a Wisconsin folklore hero from up the street is on the roster. And you run through all them cats. Vince doesn't even make your team, doesn't make your roster. Seneca Wallace, you didn't want to see him in the game, but he ended up playing. He ends up getting banged up. So you're reduced to Scott Tolzien. My goodness, that was ugly. That was bad. That was some bad football. He's not able to get it done. Luckily enough for you, Oakland, which is where Matt Flynn ended up, says, you know what, man? You garbage. Get out of here. You stink. And Green Bay was able to scoop him up, and it's like he never left. Came back in, was able to right the ship. To Aaron Rodgers was able to come back Week 17 against Chicago. The rest is history. But you don't want to go through that again. That was ugly, man. It was ugly. In here, oh, in here, oh, in here, oh. It was ugly. That was the one time I said, what the hell is are the Packers doing? Like, How did you find yourself in this position? The team that is always ahead of the curve. How did you find yourself without a backup quarterback? Packers said, don't you worry. Don't you? We will not let that happen again. They traded up to get Brett Hundley in the 5th round. They said, you know what? This is a guy that's very intriguing, and he may never play a down for these Packers. He may never see the field for these guys except for the preseason. But at least you got yourself an insurance policy in case anything ever happens to A-Rod again. This may be one of those draft and stash guys. You put him on a roster. He learns for 3 years. He showcases his skills in preseason. You trade him away for some picks. He could be that dude. Or he could be a great backup quarterback. But who wants to do that? I know Brett Hundley isn't coming in here saying, I'm going to be a backup for the next 12 years. He's looking to learn from Aaron Rodgers and this Green Bay Packers staff. Mike McCarthy is one of the best quarterback gurus in the entire NFL. He's looking to learn, take as much knowledge from these guys as possible, and then showcase his talent somewhere else. Because Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere anytime soon. We've seen that with these legends, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning. These guys, they hang around forever. You got to kick these guys. Tom Brady, pushing 40, Tom ain't even trying to go nowhere. I mean, you got to push these guys out the door. Brett would have still been in Green Bay if you would have let him. So, all I'm saying is, in the 5th round, I've already broken this guy down. I'm not going to do it here. I broke him down in the Draft Prospects 1-on-1 series. So if you're looking for a thorough breakdown of Brett Hundley and others, check that out. But in the 5th round, Packers trade up, get a guy that can help them solve some of those backup QB issues. 147th overall selection, quarterback out of UCLA. Brett Hundley for me is a triple. When you trade up, you go get a guy that you have identified as a player that you want to groom and work with, and it solves a problem for you as well. I'm all for it. I'm on board. Sign me up. Packers, this is big time for them, man. And I'm anxious because Brett Hundley has a lot of physical gifts, but it's not all there yet. There's a lot of things that I don't like about his game, but I like the fact that he's here in Green Bay with Mike McCarthy, watching a legend at work in Aaron Rodgers. It's a great landing spot for not only Brett Hundley, but for the Green Bay Packers as well. 6th round, 206th overall selection, fullback out of Oklahoma, Aaron Ripkowski is the selection. This is a Green Bay Packers pick. You want me to tell you why? Because they are, again, here we go again, Packers out in front of the curve. Everybody else, and again, just like how the Patriots play chess and everybody else is playing checkers, just like the Ravens play, chess, everybody's playing checkers, Packers are another one of those teams. They're out playing chess, everybody else is playing checkers. Here's an opportunity for them to go out. They say a fullback, 6th round, why do I feel good about this? John Kuhn is a legend in Green Bay. Kuhn! John Kuhn is a legend out there, man. The man, he can touch the ball 6 times the entire year, and 3 of those are touchdowns. And they're screaming his name, Kuhn! Kuhn! The dude's a legend, okay? But he's 33 years old. He's not getting any younger, okay? So what do? You groom his replacement. Now, John Kuhn's probably got one more good year of football in Green Bay, and then they're going to be yelling, RIP! RIP! In about 2 years. Watch what I tell you, okay? This dude right here is legit. 6'1", 255 pounds. That is tremendous size for the fullback position. That's what you want. You want a bulldozing physical fullback. And yes, I know the position is down, but I love me some fullback, okay? Fullbacks are an endangered species, but they get the job done. You got a good one on your football team, you hold on to that guy because he can change the game for you. This is one of those type of guys. Aaron Ripkowski, I'm telling you right now, is one of those type of guys. Versatility, he can play fullback, he can play H-back, he can play tight end. He lined up at all those spots at Oklahoma, and to me, they had one of the, if not the most prolific rushing attack in all of football. Samaje Perine, 2 of their tackles got drafted in this year's draft. Tyrus Thomas got drafted, so did Darrell Williams. Both of those guys were linchpins along that offensive line. Aaron Ripkowski was leading the way as a lead blocker, and then they also had Blake Bell, the Belldozer, get drafted by the 49ers. He was also blocking on that team. So everybody that was helping pave the way got rewarded by being drafted into the NFL. Aaron Ripkowski might have been one of the most vital parts of that blocking assembly line in front of Samaje Perine. Generates movement in the run game. When he gets on a guy, puts a hat on the hat, he moves them 2 or 3 yards. He generates movement in the run game. You want to see the best example of him generating movement in the run game? Turn on the Oklahoma State tape. You don't have to watch much of it. Watch the first 3 minutes of the tape. Literally, the first possession, Oklahoma gets the football. It might even be faster than that. It might be like the first minute and 50 seconds. Oklahoma gets the football, runs it right down their throats, all the way down the field, okay? The last play of that drive for the touchdown, Samaje Perine runs it in from about, let's say 5 yards in. Watch Aaron Ripkowski, the lead block on that play. Watch him blow up that end. I want to say he's a corner, safety, whomever. Watch him blow that guy up, push him from the 2-yard line into the end zone, and then another 2 yards into the end zone. That's what Aaron Ripkowski is about right there. He catch the football. He didn't get a lot of bones tossed his way. As a wise man once told me, sometimes you just gotta give the fullback a little sugar, man. They didn't give him much, okay? So he wasn't hyper, he wasn't bouncing off the walls. But there's one play, same Oklahoma State game, okay? Throw him the football. He had his best collegiate game against them. 2 rushing touchdowns, or it might have been 1 rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. Either way, he scored twice, for sure. Might have scored 3 times in that game. But either way, he catches the football at the 2-yard line. There are about 2 Oklahoma State defenders in heavy pursuit. He catches the football, palms the football, really big hands, palms the football, brings it over, and then just keeps turning the legs, gets a little help from a few buddies, gets in the end zone. Shouldn't score, but he did. He can catch the football. Yeah, I think you can feel good. I mean, John Kuhn isn't running anywhere. He catches the football out in the flats. There's nobody there. He's still only getting 22 yards. Okay, this is the type of guy, if he catches that same pass that John Kuhn's catching, that might go for a 50-yard touchdown. I mean, the guy's got enough athleticism, speaking of which. This guy is a 4'6" guy, I mean 4'7", 40 guy. He can move, okay? So you can feel comfortable throwing him the football. They even handed him a couple times. He didn't get many touches, but when he does, he makes them count. Solid in pass pro, okay? He's a guy that can protect. I told you he played tight end. He will protect. I told you he generates movement in the run game. He can protect in pass pro as well. There is a spot on this roster for a guy like Aaron Ripkowski. He's going to make this team. I guarantee it. As a 6th-round selection, you won't hear me guarantee many 6th-round selections. A spot on the roster, he's going to make this team. As long as he doesn't get injured, he's going to make this team. Special teams value. Now, that's how he's going to make this team, first and foremost, because he's not playing fullback this year. John Kuhn's still on the roster. So, he's not playing fullback this year. He's just going to learn. But in the meantime, you better play some special teams. That's what he's going to do. He's going to give you some special teams value. But my biggest thing with this guy, last pro, hard-nosed grinder, man. This guy's a grinding. Yes, this is a grinder right here. Gruden grinders, you hear those guys all the time? Don't be surprised in 2 years, you're watching Monday Night Football, you're watching a little preview for the game, and John Gruden is talking about his Gruden grinders, and he's talking about Aaron Ripkowski. He's a hard-nosed grinder. He does all the dirty work, all the little things that nobody else wants to do. He's that guy, and he'll do them gladly, man. He just wants to be one of the guys on the squad. So, I like this guy. His cons, no collegiate production. I think he ended up in his entire career with 8 catches and like 6 rushes. They didn't give him a lot of sugar. Okay, I told you that already. But he made them count. Like 2 of those catches, touchdowns, 3 of those 6 rushes, rushing touchdowns. So when he did get the football, he made it count. That's all that matters. That's why John Kuhn is a legend in Green Bay. Because when he gets the football, he makes it count. Shoulder injury. He wasn't able to lift weights. Wasn't able to show you how strong he was at the combine. Wasn't able to do the same thing at his pro day. Got a shoulder injury. And when you talk about a fullback who his job as a lead blocker is to stick his shoulder in there, stick his nose in there, that's a little off-putting and concerning. But again, he's got time to heal. Hopefully he'll be ready for training camp. Hopefully he was out there in the OTAs with the Packers. And hopefully he's fine. And that shoulder injury that was lingering is behind him. And he's ready to play football. At the end of the day, versatile football player, going to take the place of John Kuhn in 2 years or so. This is a double for me. In the 6th round, 206 pick fullback out of Oklahoma. I really like Aaron Ripkowski. He's got some value to him. This is a good pickup for the Green Bay Packers. It's what I expect out of this outfit. Next 6th round pick, 210 overall defensive end out of Louisiana Lafayette. Christian Ringo is the selection. 6'1", 277-pound defensive lineman. This guy's built funny. Built low to the ground, 6'1". And he just looks like a big mass, or just a big ball of physicality, you know, and he's round and rotund. He doesn't look like much when you just look at him like, oh, okay. Yeah, big sloppy space eater, 5 technique, stop the run, might not do much else. Wrong, okay? twitchy for his size is the next pro. This guy's got some, and again, you look at his frame, you don't expect what you get out of this guy, but he's twitchy for his frame. He has some really good movement skills, and I was wowed by him, watching him get off the snap and some of the things he was able to do. He's pretty impressive, man. The guy moves quick. He's a quick twitch athlete, and you wouldn't expect that out of a 277-pound, 6'1" defensive. He played D tackle at Louisiana Lafayette. Don't think he can do that in the next level. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but this guy's twitchy, man. There's a little something extra here, okay? Initial burst off the snap kind of goes hand in hand with that twitchiness I was just referring to. Guy's got a little bit of burst, man. If he's able to time up your snap, he can beat some guys. He can be a problem. He can get in your backfield. He's definitely an intriguing prospect here in the 6th round. Heavy, aggressive hands. His hands are where he differentiates himself from a lot of the other guys in his same similar position late in the draft. You know, small school prospect, and he still played D1 football, but Louisiana Lafayette, yeah, they're not playing the best schedule in the world, you know, so you look at this guy, and the reason why he's a draftable football player is his hands, right here. That's why. I can talk to you about the twitchiness all day long. I can talk to you about the sudden bursts you get off the line of scrimmage. Those are all nice ingredients. But this is the main thing right here, okay? This is why this guy got drafted. He has a move that he does where he grabs the offensive lineman. And for a guy that's 6'1" with short arms, he shouldn't be allowed to do this on a regular, but he does. He gets his hands on the offensive lineman, he grabs him, and then at that moment when he grabs him, he's got total control over what happens next. Does he want you to go to the left? Does he want you to go to the right? At this point, you're not in control of what happens now. And it's so odd because now he's throwing him one way or the other and he's getting in the backfield. And it just blew my mind to see him do that because, okay, you get me with that once or twice early in the game. Okay, I know what you're about now. Okay, you need to get your hands on me. You're 6'1", okay? You're a big ball of mass. I'm not letting you put your hands on me. If I'm 6'4", you're getting one of these right here. Long arm of the law, right here. You're getting one of these long extensions. I'm gonna keep you at bay. He was getting into the chest of these offensive linemen and just ragdolling them. Ragdolling them, ragtagging them. Get out the way, man. Get in the backfield. Amazing. His hands are heavy and they're aggressive, and they are the reason he wins on a consistent basis. Plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage. The guy's a menace, okay? He just plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And it's that move that I just referenced. It's the twitchiness and the initial burst off the line that help him win, to get in the backfield. He'll knife in there, he'll throw a guy out of the way, he'll get in there. I was just impressed with some of the skill set, but he's still limited in the things that he does, because if he doesn't win with initial quickness, if he doesn't win with the ragdoll move, he's stuck. And I'll talk about it a little bit later on, but we're talking about a guy that over the life of his career, we're talking about in the 40s in tackles for loss. Last year alone, I want to say he might have had somewhere around 20 tackles for loss just last season alone. I mean, he plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage. He's a dominant football player. He was a dominant football player. 3-down player, okay? This isn't a guy that you put on the field on 1st and 2nd down and then he can't get to the quarterback. You got to take him off the field. 11.5 sacks last year, okay? Not over his career, last year, okay? Had another season where he had 7, okay? There's some questions because the other 2 years, his 1st and his 3rd season, you got a total of about 3.5 sacks in those 2 seasons. Then you got his sophomore year where he's got 7, and then you got his senior season where he's got 11.5. I want to know what happened in those other 2. I can assume that his 1st year, he didn't play a lot. And that's not uncommon. 3rd year, I knew he was dealing with some injuries. Okay, I'll give him a pass on that. So I just want to see consistency. 2 years in a row of this guy putting up big numbers, heavy production. Didn't see that at college, but I know it's there, and he's a 3-down player. He's an athlete. For a 6'1", 277-pound guy, I'm expecting him to be in the 5 range. You know, 5.08, 40, 4.97. He's running. If you want to see him full out display of his athleticism and his speed. He recovers a fumble against Texas State. Okay, when his teammates hits the quarterback, fumble, ball's on the ground, he scoops it up, takes off running. Smoked everybody to the end zone. Guy's an athlete, okay? So this is a sneaky pick here. Like, a lot of people aren't paying attention. Packers do this though. They did it with Sam Barrington a couple years back. 7th round pick, nobody's paying attention. He's now a big time linebacker for him. The Packers do this. I was sold on Charles Johnson a couple years ago. 7th round pick. I'm like, Grand Valley State, this kid's a beast. Look at what he's doing now. Same thing with Jeff Janis last year. This is one of those picks. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, let's go to his cons quickly. Short arms, 6'1", it's what you expect. He got short arms. I don't know if he's going to be able to win consistently in this league with his short arms, because to me, a lot of what he does is with his arms, with his hands, being violent, tossing guys out of the way. Guys are going to be more stopped at the point of attack. Guys are going to be a lot quicker, and guys are a lot longer. You're talking about 6'5", 6'6" guys. I don't think he can play inside. That's the next kind. I think he's a 5 technique only. In his package 3-4 defensive front. Maybe in nickel situations, you can kick him inside and he can play defensive tackle, which is what he did at Louisiana Lafayette. But in your base defense, he can't play inside. He's not strong enough. He's not stout enough at the point of attack. He can't do that. So to me, he's limited. He's a 5 tech only. You go to your nickel sets and your 4-man fronts. Maybe you can kick him inside because he can still get pressure on the quarterback. I think he'd be better suited that way, but he's a 5 tech only. That's the next con. And then last con, I think his frame is maxed out. I mean, he's 6'1", 277. I don't think he can stand to gain any more weight. I don't think this is a guy that can get to 285 or anything. 277 looks about right. 280 maybe be pushing it, but maybe he can get to 280. I don't see this guy putting on another 10 pounds of weight. I think you look at his frame, you're like, man, he can't stand to eat another Big Mac. He can't eat another Whopper. He can't do that. So I think his frame is maxed out. I think he is what he is as a football player, but there's a lot here to like. In the 6th round, 210th overall selection, defensive end out of Louisiana Lafayette, Christian Ringo for me is a double, man. I'm intrigued here. There's a lot to like. I like him more than the kid you got out of Southern Miss. I want to say it was Southern Miss last year that I wasn't really high on. I think his name's Kyrie Thornton, if I'm not mistaken. So I know his last name's Thornton. I like this kid better than him last year, and that was like a 3rd round pick last year. So I like this kid right here, man. I'm intrigued. Hopefully he makes the roster and he's able to grow as a football player in Green Bay. And you round out the Packers draft in the 6th round, 213th overall selection, tight end out of UAB, Kennard. Backman is the pick. 6'3", 258-pound tight end. He's an athlete, 4'6", 640, so he can run a little bit. He mixes it up in protection. Is he the greatest in protection? No, but he gives it a run. You know, he's gonna stick his nose in there and he's gonna try to win at the point of attack. Good hands as a receiver. He was a Mackey award-winning tight end, or at least he was on the watch list, excuse me, to start the season off. So his name was known. Guys knew he was a guy that could make plays. And he had a pretty consistent career as a tight end catching the football. Never had eye-popping numbers, but they were consistent throughout the course of his career. So like that. He's a versatile guy. You could line him up at the tight end position, in line as a traditional tight end. You can flex him out, which is what they chose to do a lot of the time at UAB. You can also line him up in the backfield. They did that from time to time as well. So he's a versatile guy. H-back, flex, inline, you name it, he did it at UAB. His cons, he can be more consistent as a blocker. I didn't think he was a guy that you felt comfortable with by himself in protection. You probably wanted to chip, or you wanted him to be helping out a tackle. He wasn't the best, and again, when you get a receiving type of tight end, which is what he is, you expect that he needs to get better at that. I anticipate he will, or else he won't make this roster. Catches the football better outside his frame. He needs to catch the football better outside of his frame. The first 2 plays I saw on this guy drop the football, ball wasn't thrown to him perfectly, had to extend for it this way, had to extend for it behind him, drop both of them. Catch the football away from your frame. You're a 6'3" tight end. I need you to extend. Every pass, everybody isn't Aaron Rodgers. He probably won't have to deal with that too much in Green Bay, because Aaron Rodgers will be throwing him the football. But as a 6th round pick, you're looking to make this team, you won't be getting passes from Aaron Rodgers, I can assure you that. You'll be catching the football from Brett Hundley. You'll be catching the football from one of these other quarterbacks on the roster. Probably won't be seeing Aaron Rodgers throwing you too many passes. So with that being said, every pass isn't going to be perfect. I need you to catch the football away from your frame. To me, intriguing prospect, got some skills, and I don't really know what is going to happen with Andrew Quarles. Seems to be getting in trouble a lot. I think he just got arrested again. It could be something minor, but at the end of the day, at some point the Packers are going to say, you know what? We got another guy that can take your spot. You can go ahead and keep acting all crazy. That's not Green Bay Packer behavior, and they can move on to another direction, and maybe Kennard Backman is that direction they're trying to move into. In the 6th round, 213th overall selection, tight end out of UAB, Kennard Backman for me is a double. He can run, he can catch. Does he need to improve his blocking? Absolutely. But that goes without saying. Most guys that come into the league, late round draft picks, need to improve their blocking. That's why they're late round selections. He's got athleticism, he's got some size on him, he can catch, just has to block a little bit better and catch the football away from his frame a little bit better. There's a lot to like there with Kennard Backman. There's a lot to like with this Packers draft. Is what they do. Let's tally up the 2015 NFL Draft wrap-up of the Green Bay Packers. You start with back-to-back jacks in the first 2 rounds in Rollins and Randall. You go from there, 1 triple. That was the trade up to get Brett Hundley as your backup quarterback and groom this guy. The rest of the draft, all doubles. That's what the Packers do. No singles here for Ted Thompson and his crew. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doubles, which nets you an additional 3 doubles bonuses. So that gives you 8 doubles in all. You tally all of that up, it's a 27-point draft. You divide by 8. Hey, 27 divided by 9 would have been 3, so you know the Packers are over the triple threshold. So 3.4 for the Green Bay Packers in their 2015 NFL Draft. Impressive as always. Another good crop of players coming into this Packers team. And look, I didn't say this. You didn't hear this from me. Okay, you did. Look out for the Green Bay Packers as the team to come out of the NFC this year if they stay healthy. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying. That's going to do it for the Green Bay Packers in their 2015 NFL Draft wrap-up. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. Come back. I can see that tunnel. It's bright. Who's next? There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter @InTheLabRoom, or you can like the Facebook page @InTheLabRoom. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and @InTheLabRoom on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.